The actual mic?
Yeah, swap everything up. There's like an adapter on this thing. So you have to swap that, swap the adapter to this adapter, put that back in, and then take different mics and put these guys away, because I've noticed that there is a strange echo sometimes. Let's get this
So swap the whole setup.
Yeah.
Transmitter and receiver.
Okay, and then click on refresh that page, or just click the circle. Click that.
I gotta turn it down so there's no
feedback. What up, what up, what up? We're live, SDVIBEZ. Look at the shirt, check it out. We're at Ronin Music Studio with Daniel Bourget here. He's gonna show you guys around. There's no one in the chat yet. Did you already like press like on that?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, nice. Hey, what up? Someone else came in here and liked it already.
Oh, cool. It wasn't me, because I definitely don't like myself.
But, you know, I always like I go on all my different accounts.
No, I mean like in person.
Oh, yeah.
As a person.
Okay, let's see. We're just waiting for the chat to fill in. I'll be here. So yeah, I'll be here, but I'll be in the side studio. I'll be in the other studio. So where are the numbers here? How many of you are in booths? How many of you are in here? What up, Zachary? How we doing, buddy? We're going on a music tour today, so hopefully you're into music, bud. Zachary's one of my moderators. Zach, can you hang out? I don't know how much time you have, but if you can hang out in here and moderate, I'll be moderating, but I can't moderate for the first like 10 or 15 minutes. So if you can, that'd be cool. But yeah, welcome to Ronin Music Studio.
I think my favorite thing about this is that I can see into the past.
Yeah, just a little bit. It's kind of frustrating sometimes.
No, that's cool. Then I know if I messed up.
Okay, we still only got a couple of you guys.
Replay.
Oh yeah, we did. You were here when we moved this. So Zachary was watching when we did this one. I think I remember you being in there. Yeah, they moved it over here, and then he had to clean up this whole. So what did you do? Because you had to move this thing in here. We had to move through this tiny little door. Moved it from that direction. He'll show you around in a minute. But then what did you have to do in here in order to get?
I basically had to finish any of the dirty construction that's going to cause a lot of dust before I could put that in here, because it's dust sensitive, very highly sensitive.
Well, do you want to show them? There's only a few people in here, but might as well. They're the OGs, so let's show them what you got going on here. What up, Welshman? How we doing, dude? We're doing some music stuff today, so make sure you enjoy this. Check it out. If you guys watch some of the other stuff, we moved this previously. And since then, he's kind of fixed up his studio. So he's going to give you a tour of this today. I'll be around, but yeah, just enjoy. This is Daniel, and he's going to be talking to you guys. All right, I'm going to put this mic away. All right, dude, you're on your own unboxing. I'll leave you alone. I'll be moderating, and I'll just be reading the chat occasionally, and I'll be talking you through there.
Word. All right, well. Guess I could do a quick little overview of the space, at least this room, which is the new control room. It used to be in an adjacent room, which was much smaller, 7 by 13. This one is 11 by 18. So a little more space, a little more room to create and operate and have larger groups of musicians here, so I can fit more people in here when I'm working, which is great. It is a lot hotter in here than I imagined, because this console outputs a lot of heat. In fact, I'm going to turn on some air because I'm already dying. Okay, so a little bit about the space. From what you can see, which is not everything, but I can still kind of describe what's going on here. So on the walls, you can kind of see a little bit of it above the door here. There's some cloth, and essentially it's about an inch off the wall with some absorptive material, another ½ inch behind the cloth. So it's kind of floated. And what that does is it absorbs some high frequencies, so there's not a bunch of buildup, because I'm in a rectangular room, which is not necessarily the ideal for recording and stuff, or sorry, for audio, because parallel surfaces, sounds bounce back and forth. And so what I've done to try to combat that is create multiple different depths on every single wall. Um, the lower portion of the wall has diffusers that are all different boards oriented differently at different depths that also scatter the sound. Um, these I've got some. Let me just slightly move this for you guys so you can kind of just see at least a little bit of what I'm talking about. Let's see. Yeah, so I guess that didn't do too much for us. But yeah, so the lower half's got some diffusion as well. The ceiling tiles are textured as well as they are made of fiber, which made them really delicate and an absolute royal pain in the ass to install. I've added some exhaust vents above my console because, as I said, it puts off a lot of heat. So it needs to go somewhere and it goes up. So I utilize that to my advantage. And so when the air comes in, it pushes all the heat out. And there are some side panels here that are protruding from the wall, maybe about 2.5 inches or so. And within that wall, which is a double layer of 5/8 drywall, I've already laid a cable conduit in there so that all my audio cables are going into the wall, up into the attic, out into the live room, and to the various booths that I have throughout the house. And on the right side, I've kept it for power. So on this side, I installed 6 new clean circuits dedicated to the studio on a separate sub panel with its own ground and all that, which I did not know how to do before, but now I know a little bit of it. And also, this side is dedicated for any low voltage stuff, such as like Ethernet cables, HDMI for video, because I'm going to have cameras basically intermingled here. I'm doing a live stream thing.
He said, "You gonna come play with us at the park?" I don't know, maybe. He's like, "Do you promise?"
That's not what maybe means, but maybe. All right, so I've got, yep. So on this side is all the power stuff because you want to keep it separate from the audio so that you don't get any interference on your clean audio lines. This back wall is actually, again, that's like probably 3 or 4 layers of drywall behind that that are have an adhesive between them that's super elastic. Basically, it absorbs the vibrations, which is sound, and cuts down some of the transmission of sound through the wall. From because on the other side is the drum room, where I'll often have obviously drums, and then sometimes if a band is playing together and they want to play it all at the same time, live style recording, they're all out there. And which is another reason why I'm going to get cameras to interlink all these rooms visually. And in this giant gaping hole here is actually going to be the emblem that you can see in the O on my shirt. So that's actually the emblem for my studio, Ronin Music Studios. I've yet to build that, but I've started to procure the materials required. It's actually from my family's crest in Japan from like 800 years ago. So it just happened to work out that it looks kind of like an old reel, which is pretty cool. So this was actually a wall that, so after I built the multiple layers of wall and insulation and all that to create some separation, I actually built another frame that's tilted forward about 5 degrees. And that kind of again creates an unparalleled surface again for us, so that I don't have all parallel walls, and it's also not touching the wall. There's an air gap of about 5 inches at the top and like 3 at the bottom, and that is the air cavity kind of helps the sound. Whatever sound gets through that then bounces around before it can get through the next wall and the next wall, because if they're all connected, obviously that conducts vibrations pretty easily. So, and then what you're seeing here in all these patterns and stuff is basically a dense foam that I put HardieBacker on the frame and a really like 3 layers of dense foam that are all we cut them all out to look like rocks, glued them all up with great stuff, wrapped them in fiberglass screen, and then put like 3 or 4 layers of mortar on that, and then 3 different layers of paint mixed with iridescence and glow pigments and all that fun stuff, and some glitter, because why not? And yeah, so basically eventually the emblem will go there. There's going to be a border around it made out of cloudy quartz. It's going to be illuminated with a LED light strip that will be embedded behind it. And I'll have to make it so that I can access that if it ever dies. Let's see. So that's a little bit about the room and just the incredible amount of work that went into doing this was a lot. But I didn't really want to pay someone else to do it. Obviously there's money, but also I wanted it to be done to my standards. And if that was the case with somebody else, I would have to be babysitting and watching and make sure that they're doing it the way I want it. So I just figured might as well do it myself. And then this is my monitor stand, which is one of those fancy, adjustable height desks that I basically bought the frame and I built the surface. And yeah, it holds my monitors, obviously. And other monitors are my speaker monitors. One of them, the lower one, the larger one, they're the Kali Audio IN8s. They're pretty good. They're pretty neutral sounding. They're pretty flat, but they do have some low end, so you can kind of hear what's going on around the frequency spectrum. And sorry, let me adjust this. I'm pretty sure it's getting facial hair. And then these are the classic NS10s, which are, classic, highly regarded in the studio. They're very neutral sounding and they kind of sound like crap, but that's part of the point, is that if you can make it sound good on these, then it should sound good anywhere else. That's the idea. And I've had those for quite some time and they're pretty awesome. I just added a subwoofer to those 2 top ones, is Yamaha NS10s. And so that way I can check what's going on in the really, really low end. Sorry, I think I just pushed this button. Okay, hopefully you can still hear me. I'm going to move this because, I'm an audio engineer and I can't leave it in one place forever. I got to keep fucking with it. Yep. Okay. Just, I guess, let me know if you guys can't hear me, because I may or may not have hit a mute button, which is pretty awesome. Okay. Let me tell you. So that's about the room. I've got a bunch of outboard gear here, which is all analog stuff. A lot of tube equipment. Really high quality stuff. That's what I used to solely use before for all my microphones and instruments and stuff before I got this console a couple months ago. And I've been gone for a month working abroad. So I'm back now and I've got an eternal amount of wiring ahead of me. I've got the basic functionality already completed so that I can record bands and mix, just not to the point where I can integrate the outboard gear at will. I have to still patch that in right now, but that should soon be gone because I just got this box, which is probably like, you may have been wondering what this is, but this is 3 more 96 point Phantom TT patch bays. So basically 96 each. I got 3 of them. Each one of them has 96 points where you can patch in audio and send it to another place or send it to another place. So that makes it so when you've wired all these pieces together into these patch bays, essentially they're all at your fingertips. You can send something from anything to any other thing, which is really cool. It's based off of the TT stands for tiny telephone, because that's how they the switchboard operators used to patch through phone calls back in the day. So we're still using that technology, which is kind of cool. And this console is the solid state logic, otherwise known as the SSL, Origin 32, because it's 32 channels. Technically, it can do more than that. It can do 64 during mixdown, but for recording, it's got 32 preamps and 32 banks of EQs and a bunch of other great stuff. So I'm still obviously diving into this, and it's got a lot of flexibility and things that you can change, and you can use it in many different ways, which is cool because, you know, how whatever works best for you. But also, you know, I'm still figuring out what works best for me for various tasks, whether it be recording or mixing. And I don't have any kind of like sponsorship or anything from them, but I have been blown away by this console. It just sounds incredible. There's an insane amount of headroom. I can put all my instruments in the mix bus and I can hear everything clearly. Nothing's getting swallowed up or poking out too much. There's some sort of voodoo going on in here, and I love it. But right now I'm not really working on a mix. I just finished a mix yesterday, and also it probably won't sound very good coming through this lapel mic or the phone, so I'm gonna have to wait to do that a little later, which we will do. And also I'm gonna have you guys around when I do a full-on live recording session. When I relaunch the studio, it'll probably be, the big event will probably be in the very beginning of 2026, maybe even New Year's, depending on band schedules and stuff. I'm gonna find a band that's decent size that wants a free recording, and I'll just have a kind of an open house where I'll have people come over and ask a bunch of questions and check out this whole console in my space that I've put a lot of time and effort into. So, and then back here where I'm hanging out right now is like thousands of pounds of cables, pretty much, which also have to be organized, which is real fun. That's the glamorous side of audio they don't tell you about. And I've got some new monitors coming that are a little higher quality visually. Yeah, those should be showing up today as well. I basically went and worked for a month, and all of that money is just going to go right back into here. Yeah, so that's pretty much the size of that. Let's see. So at some point, I will get some, like I was going to get some large monitors, like big mains, but the space is physically limited, so there's no point in really having giant speakers for this medium-sized room. Maybe if this control room was like twice the size, I could get away with that, but otherwise I'm just going to be probably flooding this space with low frequencies, which is never ideal. So I've got these neutral ones, and honestly, like I almost bought these ATCs that were like around 20 grand, but again, the size of the room kind of doesn't merit that. And there's something about audio where, you know, if you learn your room and you learn your speakers, you can mix anything on them. So there's definitely some truth to that. I've mixed in crappy sounding rooms with crappy speakers and gotten good results. It just takes a little time to get used to it. One way to do that is to listen to material that you're very familiar with. Stuff you grew up listening to or listen to all the time is a good thing to reference, to know how far off of bass you are and how many frequencies, what frequencies are getting swallowed up or accentuated by the room or the monitors or the converters or the console. Really, a lot of different things that can affect that. So real quick, I guess I'll just show you guys what I got going on here, just so you can kind of see what I was talking about. But this just arrived today. Kind of a surprise because I ordered it yesterday, and yeah, was not expecting it until I get back from my next trip, which is soon. Going to the Great White North. Haven't been there, so that'll be cool. And this is from, again, I don't have any kind of affiliations with anybody because nobody knows who I am, which is, you know, I plan on keeping it that way for the most part. But this is from a company called Redco, and they have really high quality supplies for, you know, whether you want to buy bits and pieces or pre-made things. But in this case, the patch bays are usually pre-made. I don't really know anyone that makes patch bays, but they're also the company that I ordered 300 foot of cabling off of, so that I can solder 900 points to make a large sum of DB25 cables to interconnect all my rooms with something that's a little more modular and higher quality cabling, which, you know, should matter, but I don't always know if it's not just snake oil or not. So anyways, all right, so here is one of the patch bays, one of 3, and each of those little holes I can patch these little cables into, which are, let me show you this and then take it away immediately so that I can show you again. But here's the idea. You've got all these little patch points here, as you can see, and later I will label them, because that would be absolutely ludicrous to believe that, you know, I should memorize all those things at all. So basically, so I can't really hold it with one hand too well, but, you know, you have a microphone out there in the other room, and it's in my input box out there with an XLR, 3-pin XLR, and I could have it coming out of this channel. It's in one on that box. Now I want to send it, maybe I want to, instead of sending it to this first preamp that I've already patched in the back here, I can send it to the 4th one. And then the next set, you know, I would come out of that and send it over here to a compressor or whatever else I'm trying to implement in the chain. So that's the basic idea of it. And then the back of it here, those are the connector types, the DB25s, because there's 25 pins. Each channel, each line has 3 pins, 3 wires. So I have a lot. So when I build the cables that are going to go into this, there's going to be a buttload of soldering. So maybe a little over 900 points that I have to solder to get my studio working optimally. Right now I have XLRs and other things basically coming from the live room and the booths that I then change into DB25 with snakes that have those terminations. And then here, each of those little dip switches, you can move them to have different configurations, fully normaled, half normaled, so, and isolated ground. So basically you can have it to where something that's anything here automatically spills down to here, or you can have it where they're separate, or you can have it where it spills down to here unless you plug something into either one. Then the signal basically is in the end of the cable, and wherever you put it, it's no longer spilling down. You can either take it from the source or from the destination and put it wherever the hell you want, which is pretty dang awesome. So that's going to be a lot of my day today after this video or stream, is wiring up this console. Has 328 paths of audio. So I believe it's 41 of those DB25 cables, and, you know, each of those, if you were to buy them, they're around like $180 to $200, so you can do the math. It's not very cheap. So that's why I'm going to be wiring a lot of my own stuff and soldering a lot of my own cables. And to be honest, it's like a skill that I want to relearn. When I was younger, I did some soldering and it was cool, but now it's been like 20 years. So I need to refresh and get better at that again. And then I can also start building my own gear, which will be a fun new chapter in life. So it's pretty much endless. It really never ends. And that's why as you can see down there, I've already got one patch cable with 96 points paths, and I needed 3 more, and I might actually even need 1 more after that, but, you know, I figured I can hold off on that one. It's not necessary, so no point in blowing my wad right now on that one. Let me see. Let's see. I'll probably have them half normaled. Well, really, some channels will be fully normaled, some will be half, depending on what I need out of them. Because I've got, like I said, this rack of pre's that I might like want something darker for, I don't know, the cymbals, the overheads. So then I might put it through some of these other tube guys to get a little darkness out of it. And then I have a whole other rack on the other side, which I haven't installed yet, but I've got a ton of compressors and EQs and stuff, which I will use for mixing during the mixing and mastering, and obviously sometimes recording. And so I'll need to be able to patch those willy nilly as I see fit at the time, wherever the wind blows. Side plug here, but again, I don't have any affiliations with anything because fuck corporate companies. But this chair, if anyone's interested, is it's like $100 from Costco, and it's got the thing with the arms that go up. It's nice. There's no headrest, so you won't have to worry about any comb filtering, audio basically bouncing back at your ears and canceling. But yeah, it's like $100, and it's pretty nice mesh. So your butt can breathe and you don't get swamp ass. Nobody likes swamp ass. Let me see what else I can show you guys around here. So as I said, right now I'm not really currently working on a mix. I was supposed to have a client come through today, but artists can be a little flaky. That didn't happen, but I promise that I will have you guys here when I actually do some recording, hopefully with a full band, so you can kind of see the full scale of it with like 5 players playing simultaneously, either all in the same room or in various places. Because I've got basically 3 additional isolation spaces in excluding my live room. So the live room is 16 by 26, so it's a pretty big space. So the drums sound absolutely killer in there. I really haven't done much to it as far as the acoustic treatment. I threw up like a cloud, put a bunch of like furniture and amps and things like that have killed some of the reflective frequencies, and as well as like rugs and stuff, which is done quite a bit. I was really surprised. It was like the first time I tried it, I was like, oh God, what is this going to sound like? And I was actually surprised with how good the drums sound. So I haven't really messed with it too much because it ain't broke. But I am going to do a little bit of tweaking in the next couple months here. Now that the control room is pretty much completed, I can turn my attention elsewhere. And then it's pretty much endless, but I've already said that. I'll probably be honestly working on this studio until I die, but I kind of like it that way. Let's see. Maybe I can show you guys some stuff on this. I've got a Mac back here. It's a mini. I never do the newest versions of anything because I don't trust that shit. Usually if you get the newest OS or the newest Mac or the newest interface or the newest whatever, there's going to be problems associated with it. It won't be 100% functional, and you are the unknowing guinea pig. So I don't like that. I usually try to stay like 2-3 years behind so that all the kinks have been worked out, and that I don't have to do that, because why should I if I paid top dollar for the newest thing? I made that mistake before of getting like the latest and greatest multiple times, and it's never been like 100% flawless, which can be quite infuriating. For example, I just installed this new interface on top. I've got 2 of them here, and I installed this new one in order because it has 32 additional analog ins and outs, so 32. And then that converts it to digital, which is going to my computer, which is the modern tape machine. So recording to Pro Tools from there, and then it converts back into analog and comes back into my console for monitoring and mixing, so I can mess with all these EQs, and all these faders, and everything gets summed in this center section here, which is glorious. And then I take that out and it goes back in and gets converted to digital yet again into Pro Tools. And usually at that stage, I might everything, all these 32 channels are summed into 2 channels at that point, stereo, so left and right. And then I usually run that through some outboard not preamp, sorry, EQs and compressors. So I've got some pretty tasty ones that you guys will see in the very near future here. I'll be gone for about a week, and then when I come back, Ronin Music Studio will be housing some musicians, and I'll definitely have you guys along if you want. One of my favorite things to record is drums, which is why I wanted a nice big console as well. Honestly, I already had about 30 channels of preamps, so I had plenty of preamps that were all high quality, good, different flavors. But I was honestly, the main reason I got this was for the mixing purposes, for the summing. But I was very blown away by the preamps as well. I was not expecting it to be as good. I was kind of hoping for maybe a 10% increase overall after I got this console, but it's been like 2x at least. Very, very happy with that, because you know how it is. Sometimes you buy stuff and it sucks, and it's really it can be disheartening. So I'm just firing up some stuff back here. If I do try and play some audio, I'll make sure to get rid of this lav that will automatically cancel any sound or music, I guess. And then in the center here, I've got the SSL UF8, which is a controller. So essentially, this is the physical link to the digital world where I can control faders and various plugins and panning and all sorts of stuff right here. And it's a bank of 8, and you can just bank over in one track at a time or in banks of 8. So it makes it easy to kind of fly around the session. And yeah, so yeah, okay, I was saying something and then, ADHD, but these interfaces sound absolutely incredible, Antelope, but they are a royal fucking pain in the ass to get working. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, it was like almost a week of time of me trying a million different permutations and combinations of things to try and get this crap working, because it's like, and again, it's, the newer one is new. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, that should just work when I plug it in, right? No, wrong, not the case. So yeah, so I spent a lot of time. And then the other thing about this is both of those have a Thunderbolt output, and I found out through contacting the manufacturer, they're like, oh, you can only run one Thunderbolt device and one USB. You can't do, or multiple USBs, but you can't do 2 Thunderbolts. Well, I made it work with with Thunderbolts, so fuck them. But they tried. I guess it's probably doesn't run in an ideal fashion, but yeah, that's besides the point. Anyways, got it working with dual Thunderbolt. One of the biggest things was, and if you guys ever have any of this problem with audio interfaces, is with like Thunderbolt, if you have longer than the 1.5 feet, the little short guys, you'll have data dropouts and stuff like that, which is really fun stuff. And then you'll be chasing your tail a bunch. Sorry, I'm just turning on the air because it is savage in here right now. Okay. Yeah, so that's another thing. Make sure, if you ever do get an interface, if you're an audio guy, I don't know if you are, or gal, then anything over a 1.5 foot cable, which is kind of fucking useless. So like 3 feet or greater, you're gonna want to get an active Thunderbolt cable, and it's hard to find those, because they'll say they're active, but they're not, and it'll kind of work, but not fully. So you got to make sure that you find one that is absolutely active. Otherwise, you're going to have problems. And I think there's enough of those in life. All right, cool. Apple's trying to make me buy iCloud. So screw off as well. Let's see. So today I've got a bunch of wiring to do, but I've also got a bunch of editing, which is essentially I'm just gonna line up some of the recordings that I did yesterday because my dude gets a little excited and plays a little ahead, so I just got to bring him back. Not like perfectly, but just a little bit, just so it's not obviously rushing. But that's part of the human element, you know, and that's why we like real players and real instruments, because your brain picks up on that subconsciously or consciously. It knows when something's way too perfect or not. Yeah, so remember how I was just talking about interface foolery? Yeah. This one doesn't want to be recognized, which is fun times. Let's see if I can get him going. There it is. Yeah, because, you know, it didn't want to launch the first time I opened the launcher, but the second time, obviously, I should have known that. All right, so let me see what's going on here. So this is Ronin Music Studio. I'm located in North County, San Diego, maybe about 8 miles from the beach. Would have loved to have had a studio right by the beach, but humidity, salt in the air, not good for this kind of stuff. And I would just be constantly paranoid about that. But it's far enough away from the city. And yeah, and I'm not too far from LA. It's about 80 miles. So, you know, but with that traffic, it takes an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on where you're coming from. But I do work with a lot of people from LA. They are willing to drive down here to work with me, which is great. And I've had some pretty good clients from LA and also San Diego. And kind of the whole vibe of this place is it's a getaway, anyways. I mean, I want people to not be thinking about their car payments and their rent and their normal circles of friends and stuff. And I want them to just kind of be here and in the craft. Yeah. So I don't really know what I'm going to put on Pro Tools here, but I'm at least just going to pull it up so it like looks cool, I guess. I don't know. So I've got separate hard drives here. That's another thing. If you're an aspiring audio engineer, you definitely want to have separate drum. You want to have separate. Sorry, not drums. I just read that word. You want to have separate hard drives that you record to, because basically you don't want to record to the same hard drive that your operating system and the software is on, because it's too much data processing bandwidth. Let's see, I'll do a little testy. I promise it'll be a lot more interesting next time when I have something going on here. But like, as I said, I just got back from this trip and it's been yeah, I've been doing a lot of like administrative work, as I call it. Just a lot of sending back cables, getting new ones, returning old ones, ordering a bunch of crap on Amazon, sifting through all the terrible products and finding good ones. You guys know how that whole rigmarole goes. Which is a whole challenge in and of itself. Let me see if we got something interesting here. Might be on another hard drive, because I constantly back up my files and then transfer them onto 2 separate hard drives that I have multiple copies of the same thing, basically. And these are just some current projects. That one's not released. Probably can't show you that yet. Some of this is really funky shit too, which I love. We'll see how this goes. Turn on some of these speakers real quick. speakers on last, off first. That's a rule of thumb there, because you don't want to send a sudden voltage spike of DC, and then that basically causes the drivers inside the speaker to go boom in the magnets, and that can really mess them up. Assuming anyone here is even interested in audio, but you know, it's nerd stuff. Still applies if you have a home stereo system. This one might be a little busted. Let's see here. An older session. Well, it's kind of an older session, but it's also kind of an abandoned session, I would say. But this is a really interesting form of recording that we do here. Let me see here. There we go. So this group has been pretty fun. We kind of like fired it up during the pandemic. During the pandemic, because you know there wasn't a lot going on, but there's a handful of us that still wanted to make music and you know live our lives. So enter at your own risk. We did some of that, and it was basically we would have about anywhere from 5 to 7 musicians that didn't know each other, never played together, but we're all top level performers and musicians, and kind of just mashed them in a room, and I threw up mics and would record, and they would jam, and sometimes it would be like 10-minute song, sometimes it would be a 30-minute jam, and we would usually maybe sometimes after, so we recorded, it was really cool stuff, but then like after a time we might come back to edit it and get rid of some of like maybe the first minute where they're like one guy's starting to play something and then the other people are starting to join in, and sometimes it wasn't as exciting obviously as like when everyone's fully locked in, but yeah, fun times. Let me just see what I can add here without messing up my mix here. That should be something. And that is not going out of my output. Go, fun times. Okay. I'll also have to get rid of this microphone apparently, so I need a minute for that. Because this microphone does not like music. It says, no, you can't. Well, it's probably the software, really, but yeah. Let's see what I got going on here. Okay, so this is a slightly different configuration than normal. I just got to make sure that this thing is doing what I want, which okay, it is. But I probably got some real stupid thing going on right now. This happens all the time too. Like, oh hey, you had it muted, bro. You know, one of those. So that happens, and it's good because it's a nice little slice of humble pie when you start to feel cool. Okay, I'm actually confused right now. This isn't working because I've got meters going. I've got signal. Something might be soloed funky. Let me just make sure. Because I just had this set up for an entirely different configuration yesterday. I was recording and mixing. Well, not mixing, I was editing. I heard something. Not a good something, but something. I keep disappearing behind this, but you know, that's where I spend a lot of my life. It's in the pile of cables. Let me see something real quick here. I might have been the wrong session. Hold on. Maybe I can. That's kind of annoying. Yeah, I could probably play some of this because it's like you guys never paid me for this one song. But I still have it. Obviously, nobody gets nothing for free. This is one of my buddy's things that we're working on. Hey, why not? I'll just omit some of the vocals, and then it'll just be like instruments. And he doesn't care. I mean, he's actually about it. He was the one that was going to be here today. And, you know, things change. Let me just see what's going on here. Dip switches on the back of these so that they're not on RCA input anymore. This is all the stuff I do before people show up, obviously. I don't make people pay me for this shit, but it's all the unseen work that goes on behind in preparation. It's like, it can be a lot, but when you're sitting here, everything's running smoothly, and you're recording, and everything sounds fucking awesome, it's all worth it. Switching playback engines. Hopefully Pro Tools doesn't shit its pants, because Pro Tools is kind of notorious for that. It's got its problems, but when you get it running solid, it's the best DAW in my opinion, for at least for editing and mixing, and it's great for tracking too. Maybe Logic and Ableton are also good options for production and songwriting, but this is what I learned on. This is what I know, like 30 pages of hotkeys for. So this is what I use, and it hasn't really held me back. Besides, as I mentioned, the few blips that happen. I'm actually gonna go ahead and cut this. Maybe I'll just fire up this board for like a couple minutes, so you guys can see all the pretty colors. So I gotta turn these speakers off, because if I'm gonna power up this console, there can definitely be some juice that goes through there. Gotta remember to turn this ding dang lavalier mic off. Sure, you guys will yell at me and let me know. All right, here's a session. I can actually bring this. Let me bring these screens up a little bit more with my fancy little monitorizer. The future is now, and the future is here at Ronin Music Studio. Okay. Dang, got a lot of stuff going on here. All right. So this is the timeline here on the left. That's all the various tracks. I like to color code my shit for the most part, except for here. Don't look, because I haven't color coded that. Don't look there. I'll let you know when you can look. Okay, now you can look, because vocals are green, obviously. Yeah, so just to show a little bit more here, expand that. I've ditched this track because I didn't really like it. This one is also just a little extra reverb track that I added for the snare, which I didn't really end up using. Same with this tom track, didn't really end up using that either. Yeah. Let me make sure this is all groovy. Here's another thing. Let's see. So this is the IO setup. I'm just going to delete all this crap because it's probably not applicable for this session. And what I'll do is import my previously saved dual Thunderbolt in and out setup here. And then, yeah, everything just went to shit. No, you know what? I think I've got, one sec here, I'll show you. I've got a different version. This should be the correct routing. It's not all fudged. That's the fun part when you have all these different iterations of the same song. Is got to keep track of them, which is why organization and file management is absolutely paramount. You can't fuck around with that. You got to do it. I see so many people that have like their desktop completely filled with files and songs, and it's like song 1A, 1112. I'm like, dude, how do you know where anything is in this madness? And if you got to recall it quickly, which time is money, it's kind of sucks. All right. All right, so let me see here. I'm gonna fire up this console before I switch up the microphone. So you guys, I mean, it's gonna be an iPhone microphone, so it's probably not gonna be like, you know, the high definition quality you guys are used to listening to music on, but you'll get the idea. And I'll figure out something for that later where I can just basically take an output of this console and stick it into the phone. But yeah, there's the beast lighting up. Christmas. It doesn't have a name yet. Still haven't even quite decided on a gender. I think it's a man, but you know how things can be nowadays. It could be true today and not tomorrow. All right. So this DAW is Pro Tools. I just saw the question. Sorry, I'm not like good at this whole, you know, live thing yet. I'll figure it out. You guys can help me. You know, tell me what's cool. Tell me what sucks. All that good stuff. Okay, let me see what I got going on here. Make sure I'm passing some signal first. Okay, this is a singer-songwriter I work with, and he plays ukulele, and basically he'll come in with his ukulele, he'll play some chord progressions, sing some vocals, and from there we build it out. And I'll bring in one of my buddies who's a bassist, another drummer, and I kind of tell them what I want them to play and have them play it till they get it the way I want it, and then we kind of just go from there and continue building and strip back things that's like, hey, this section's been going on for like a minute, bro. Like I'm bored of it. Like I think whoever's listening is gonna be bored, so let's like switch it up, you know, or change the chord progression or maybe like the pattern of the strumming, you know, because especially ukulele, there's the finite number of chords you can play, and the strumming patterns are kind of, you know, incessant. I don't know if that's a good word for it, but it doesn't stop. So trying to create some spaces and dynamics and tension and release. So let me go ahead and ditch this microphone. I think I just got to unplug it from here somewhere. This is the part that I was told about, but I already forgot because I'm just an audio engineer, guys. You can't expect me to know this audio stuff. Oh yeah, this little dongle. Like, who decided that's a word? It had to have been a dude. All right, one sec. Sorry if things go weird for a second. Let me just plug in this power real quick so this thing doesn't die, and you know, words. Okay, let me make sure I didn't fuck anything up. Okay, so I'm just gonna do like, I'm gonna omit the vocals for now. I'm just gonna cut those. That way it's not like too definable. It'll just be drums and bass and ukulele. Ukulele. Ooh, ukulele. Alright. Obviously, that's the ukulele. So, let me just bring a couple things in one at a time for you guys. So ukulele, obviously. And then I got some bass. Usually probably the hardest to hear on the phone, but added some shaker. Bet you didn't know I'm a professional shaker player. Not true. I made that up. But playing percussion is actually very challenging. People think it's just like, oh, just shake this thing or hit this thing. It's not that simple. There's swing, there's push and pull. This shaker sounds different in this part. Gives it a little different feel versus this shaker. And I'm a little hesitant to mess with these too much because I got this mixed pretty much 95%. So I don't want to fuck with it too much, but I can show you some things. Let's see. I've got, let's start with the drums here. So that's kick drum. I had two different mics, which I usually just use one anyways. I usually just end up using one. When I started recording, I'd have like 2 or 3. I realized, it didn't make any sense. It sounds just fine with one, and some EQ. Or really, the most important thing of all is placement. Where the hell you put it is absolutely the most important thing in all of recording. I don't care what anyone says. It's not the preamp, it's not the mic, it's not the EQs. It's the placement. And obviously, a good source. Like if someone, like if their instrument sounds like absolute dog shit, this was going to sound like garbage in, garbage out. And the most important thing tying to that is the performance. Okay, so kick drum, toms, which I have gated the living hell out of because this particular song doesn't really need toms ringing out for all eternity. Let's see, I'll bring up the tom tracks visually so you can kind of see them. There they are. Okay, so I lied. I didn't gate these. I edited them because I don't trust gates. People play differently, like different dynamics. So one tom hit or one fill might be a lot harder than the other. The gate opens up for the hard hits, but it doesn't open for the soft hits, then I've lost a fill. So I hate playing that game, so I just do it manually now and I get rid of the tail. So like, you can hear it kind of comes in and disappears. And this is that was the rack tom. Here's the floor tom. That one's even shorter because that tends to resonate a lot with the kick drums, like this happening all the time, which can be cool for rock and stuff like that, and jazz and blues. But sometimes this is kind of a more pop-leaned pop rocks, so a little cleaner. And then with both of them, let's see. Here's a section with some stuff going on. Kind of hear them cut out. You can hear it die off a little. I try to make it as natural as possible, but then when you blend it in with the overheads, you kind of don't have to worry about that as much. It kind of takes care of that. So I just brought in, well, let me show you the overheads by themselves. Just kidding. Maybe I should, not use the solos in Pro Tools and just use my console. So that's the actual overhead microphones, which in this case was Neumann KM84s through the SSL. So once again, here's just the overheads. Okay, and then I'll begin that section without the direct shell mics, and then I'll put them in, and you'll hear the difference. Now this is that and that. Okay, let's see what else we got here. So, got two snare mics, one above, one below. I try to capture like some of the stick hitting the skin on the top, along with some of the body, and then underneath, I just try and get the rattle of the snares as much as I can. And I usually kind of EQ out some of the low end because I'm not really trying to get as much body out of that, just the snares themselves. Okay, so here's the snare, just the top. SM57 SSL. I'm going to bring in I'll show you the bottom now. Here's the bottom. And then when I combine them, you also got to make sure that those are in phase with one another, because if there's a big time arrival difference, it can essentially one can cancel out the other as you bring it in, which is like the opposite of what you want. So now this is the two of them combined. So that's just snare, and then I showed you the toms. I've got a hat mic on this one because I had him playing some stuff. Really compressed, really EQ'd. I mean, I'm really just trying to get some of the sizzle out of that. I'm not trying to get a full sound from that spot mic. Anyways, you get the idea. I got a room mic going on here, which has some pretty cool shit going on. So this room also has quite a bit of compression. I like to put a little compression on at least one of the room mics to give it some character, some grit, some bite, whatever term you want to use. And then I have another one that is absolutely destroyed, like in the good way, I guess you could say. Let's see if I've even got it active. I might not have used it in the mix because it might have been too much. Oh no, there it is. Crush. That's my crush mic because it's absolutely crushed. Think of when the levee breaks, kind of. That's the idea-ish. The inspiration. Oh yeah, this is nasty. Here we go. Versus the other room. So you put them together. Anyway, so I don't really use too much of that bombastic mic, maybe during certain sections where I really want to accentuate what's going on in the room, or maybe like a drum and bass break section, something like that. And then put all these mics together. Okay, let me just tell you, I guess, real quick what mics I use. The kick, I use the D112. A lot of people don't like that mic. Don't know why. Cause I guess it kind of sounds like you're kicking a box, you know, initially. But the thing I like about it is it kind of has all the frequencies in there. So all I got to do to get, whether I'm recording jazz, blues, rock, metal, I just need to suck out whatever frequencies I don't want, which is simple enough. The snares, 57s, the toms, I just use those little E604 Sennheisers, which are pretty cheap, but they do a great job of canceling out the other sound. On the hi-hat, I used a Telefunken pencil condenser, and I'm having the damnedest time remembering what it was. It's a prototype. Let me go grab that real quick. It's right out here, so just 1 second. I buy way too many mics, and I spend way too much money on this shit, but I love it. And I regret nothing. Which ones are these? Oh yeah, they're the M60 FETs. FET type, prototype. Yeah. So, little pencil guy. I've noticed it's really good on certain sources, especially like I've been using it on strings, like for acoustic guitar, ukulele, this ukulele was recorded on this mic. Any kind of strings, like, you know, violin, maybe not like contrabass or stuff like that. And also percussion. It's been really good on percussion and overheads. So it's a pretty versatile little dude. Bought that at an auction from this place in LA. Might as well give them a shout out. Analoger. They're cool. They got good shit, and they also sell like highly collectible items like Beatles memorabilia. In addition to that, like this, for example, this microphone preamp is a Groove Tubes, which is like not really a company anymore. God knows why. They make awesome stuff. Made awesome stuff. This is the VI Pre. This actually belonged to a very famous producer named Al Schmidt. And when he passed a few years ago, his family basically, you know, auctioned off all his stuff, and I ended up getting couple pieces from him, including 2 prototype mics that were custom made for him by the techs that work at Avatar Studio in New York. So he loved them so much that they made him a pair to bring back to LA, and they ended up with me. And they're great. And I will take good care of them and cherish them for a very long time until they're ready to find their new home. And also, yeah, so those blank spaces down there, side thing, that's where my patch bays gonna go. Patch bays are going to go. All right, so here's the whole drum kit. Section with some tom toms because everyone likes that, right? Yeah, this is my buddy Tim Sams on the drums. He's a North County dude too. He's a fucking killer drummer. He's played in tons of bands, some pretty known, but like he's like always in like 3 or 5 bands at a time. But till recently, where he's kind of like stepped away from that a little bit, but he'll still come play for me, which I love because he's a great drummer and he can take direction, and I can be like, hey, I know you were playing that for like the last 30 minutes, but can you like not play it that way and play it this total opposite way? And he's like, sure. So that's always great. And the bassist is my buddy Stephen Harding, who's a killer bassist. I met him when I was working at Studio West in Rancho Bernardo, and I become the lead engineer there, and he came in with his band, and they were like all 15 years old, and I was like, damn, this kid's good. So I've been working with him ever since. I've worked with him on many of his other bands, including his solo project, and then I hired him to come play bass. So he's a cool cat and really talented bassist. So let's see, I've got So I'll add in the percussion too. Probably a little more subtle. Might not be able to tell with the phone speaker. And then bass. Throw in the bass. Tambourine, because why not? And then there's some cheeky little keyboard part that we put in that I cranked the living crap out of to just distort the fuck out of it, which I thought was cool, but might be a little much. We'll see. Haven't landed on that yet. So, yeah, this one, like I said, I pretty much destroyed this signal. It already has some plugins kind of warbling it. Whatever.
Okay, keep going. You're doing good.
All right. I think I'm back. I don't know when that dropped out or what the last thing you guys heard or saw was. So it should be back now. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. But maybe, what was the last thing you guys heard me do? Because I'm pretty sure I just went on a little solo monologue for myself, you know, for fun. But if anyone wants to refresh my memory on where we were at, that would be cool. Maybe I was messing with that little keyboard. Was that the last thing you guys heard? Yeah. All right, so yeah, let me just finish that train of thought and at least try to thwart some ADD here. So, one more time real quick, I'll just show you what I did. So I had it, just a basic ass electric piano. Probably even like a free plugin, I don't know. Wanted it to not sound really good, if that makes sense. And then I added some compression and this effect here, which is like a delay and a reverb. And then I overdrove the shit out of it with, on the low band and the EQ here, I just boosted the crap out of the low end to get some, to just get it to overload as well as the input gain. That's like full extreme, not quite what I put in the mix, but with the uke, it doesn't sound too bad. It's kind of a background supplemental melody. It's not any kind of main situation. You guys can't really hear, but I've got the ukulele slightly panned here. So rather than having that keyboard like hard left and right, I've got it kind of cheated that away a little bit. So that way it's not conflicting with the ukulele, which is a more primary instrument in this particular song. But maybe I can show you guys something real quick since we got reset anyways. Maybe I'll just show you guys a quick little tour-ish of these two booth areas. There, I'm gonna have to go ahead and apologize for the state of uncleanliness that is going on in there, but as I said, everything is in flux right now, so I'm kind of got a lot of projects going on simultaneously. But I will show you guys real quick what I've got going on, and try not to fuck this stream up again. Just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna take this stand with me. That's what I'm gonna do. This is a mobile phone, right? All right, let's see. All right, I'll give you just a quick little. So here's some of the preamps I've got. Chandler Limited stuff is really good. Those old school APIs are great. They're nice and broken in, so they don't, yeah, they sound great. Uses it on drums. And I've got, obviously this is the SSL. So in the center section here with this is the control surface that I was talking about. So like I can go between different tracks, and you can see those are the volumes represented on Pro Tools is reflected there. So it's pretty cool. That way you don't have to use a mouse as much, which is great. And then I'm just gonna give you a quick little peek. This is my original little studio that used to just be a little closet at one point. And then it became my little control room where I lived for a couple years and just mainly was like mixing and editing and stuff like that. And then it became a booth when the other side of this glass became the control room. So that's essentially, yeah. So here's where I'll usually stick the singer, and they'll be in here. And yeah, so I just got little diffusion back here with some stone tiles, and as well as a cloud up here with some rock wool and some cloth, and pretty basic. Did some wood on that wall paneling, and then this is the window that goes through to the control room, which was the old control room. Obviously got to have some lights because, you know, vibes. And here was the old control room of Ronin Music Studio that is now an auxiliary booth as well. Yeah, because you can never have enough isolation. Oh, what? Anime, sick. So, yeah, so I've got this little... It's a little hard to see. I'll go ahead and turn up the lights here for a second, and I'll ruin the vibes for just a second. Let me show you. Oh, God. See, guitars, amps. Yeah, it's kind of become a storage room for now, but, you know, I promise it won't stay that way. Did the same thing here with the cloth wall. And back here is a diffuser that actually goes past these clouds, these purple clouds, all the way up over the window. And there's like hundreds of these little dudes that are all different depths. And I burned all 5 sides of every single one of these and glued them up. Really fun stuff. Highly recommended if you're bored for like 2 weeks. And then, you know, the fireplace for some vibe and warmth. This is my old desk. Let's see, it's a pile of crap right now, but this is a big workstation here that held about 28 units of rack space. And then there's the window, obviously, to the booth. So I was there this is where I lived for about 5 years. And let me get this light knocked down a little bit here. Yeah, so I've got some clouds. They're pretty thick guys. And then I obviously just did the purple fuzzy because, like, you know, it's funky. It's weird. And there's 2 more back here. Kind of hard to see. Angled, slightly angled. And then I'm gonna stop moving you guys around in a second here, but and then these are some little portholes. So I built out this little frame jutting out from the wall, got some brass portholes, and put some LEDs in there. And I can change the colors, but I kind of like the submerged vibe of being, you know, we're underwater in the New Orleans pirate ship or something like that. I have no idea. There's so many different styles going on here. And oh wait, one last thing. This lower wall is called Ghostwood. It's pretty tight. It's rough sawn. Looks pretty cool, especially if you char it a little bit. And this is, sorry, I know I said I'd take you out of here, but I lied. This is probably one of my dopest possessions. That was a master class I did with Jeff Emmerich, and that's where I met him, and I started working with him for a little bit after that, before he passed. But that was one of the cooler things that I've done in my life. I mean, it was like a week long, and I probably learned more in that week than I did in a year of full-time 12-hour-a-day school, if that tells you anything. So, right, so here we go. Here's the space once again. And then, so yeah, this is the green. This is the paneling I was talking about that kind of sticks off the wall. I've got all the audio coming up this side, behind, buried into the wall, going up to the ceiling, through the attic. And that's the power side. On the other side is where the real magic happens, AKA the bane of my existence, but necessary evil it is. So, as I've said, it's not fully wired up, but you can kind of see that I've got a little mountain of cables going on here. And that's not even, that's like the very tip of the iceberg. So once I get all this wired in, then I have to like harness it and make it look pretty and like space things out, like power away from audio, and do all that, which I've been trying to do as I go along the way, so I don't have a ton of work to redo. But if you look at the, let's see here, the back of this console, I'm gonna show you real quick if I can get in there. Just 1 second here. Nope, I'm gonna have to take this thing for a second. 1 second. I will show you my console. All right, so this is the back. This is what I was talking about. So obviously these are XLR inputs, the ones on the top. So basically the microphones would plug into there. Obviously I'm not running a long ass microphone cable from the other room all the way through there. So I've got basically an input box in the live room, and then that comes out here in XLRs, which I then plug into here. Well, actually I go into the patch bay, then I come into here. But, and all these DB25s are for each bank. So there's like, you know, this set is for one set of 8 channels. I've only got 2 plugged in right now, basically the necessary ones, the direct outputs and the monitor inputs that I can send back my DAW sound into here. And this is kind of the, these are the big heat sinks. It actually consumes a surprisingly low amount of power, like 700 watts, which is like pretty wild. And this is kind of the diagram for, yeah, this is the diagram for the thing. Those are all the ins and outs, and there's 41 of these DB25s, because as you see, it just kind of keeps going and going. And then there's the ones with the white ones, that's kind of the center section. So bus outputs, inputs, groups, and all that good stuff. And then, yeah, this is the back of, so same thing with my, with the interface there, it's got, the bottom one has 8 DB25s in and out for the 32 channels that go to this board. All right, I'm gonna stick you guys back on this stand in a second here. Let me just move you. Okay. Yeah, so basically that's kind of the brief summation of it. I'm going to go pretty deep into the rat's nest today once I'm done doing this, and it's not really going to be that entertaining. It's going to be a lot of me grunting and like plugging things in, which is like, you know, could be cool if you're into that, but most people don't really care about that stuff. and a lot of trial and error of like doing things over and over again, you know. Yes. So, sorry, I did this the derpy way. Oh, are there any other bigger rooms? Let me see here. Sorry, dude. Sorry, peeps. Let me learn how to use my fingers real quick here and get this thing situated. So right now I've got, this is obviously the main control room. Okay, so I've got, this is another little room that I use for, like, you know, in case of emergencies. I just close this freaking steel door here and put like percussion or maybe an upright bass or something. Someone that maybe needs to see the drums, but I don't want them in the same room. So I built this frame and window and all that stuff to lead into basically this room here, which is the live room. And it's a pretty big space. It's like 28 feet long, I believe, if that's what I said. Yeah, so this is my live room. I've got to do, this is like the next on the list as far as aesthetics that I got to get dialed. I've got an organ there, a bunch of guitars. That's my cloud that I made out of a bunch of moss and shit like that. Burned the living crap out of my fingertips. Had some help with some friends. Fender Bassman, that one belonged to, what's that dude? West Borland, Limp Bizkit bro. Got an upright, and then this whole hall which goes to the bathroom and all that stuff, and got some other stuff here. Oh yeah, Fender Rhodes, suitcase edition, Leslie cabinet, tape machine, yeah, Darth Vader, you know, all the good stuff. Built this little rolling rack that I plan to use under my desk that I can just kind of like pull it out as I need it, because they don't really make too many of these low ones that are upward facing. So, and this wall was also used to just be this brown frame, and it was a giant hole, and you know, it was fun for a time, but I decided to put some thick ass glass between those, have it slightly angled, built the frame. Nothing's perfect here because, you know, I'm doing it, but I'm learning. Yep. And yeah, I'm not really going for the perfect isolation situation because, I mean, like, look, then I would need to build it from the ground up. I would need split slabs. I would need all these different separated rooms and shit. But the fact of the matter is I'm building into a pre-existent structure. So I'm just going to have to get it as good as I can. And, you know, Fleetwood Mac. So pretty sure if they can do it in a house, then I can do it in a house, you know? So yeah, and that is pretty much the spaces here that I've got. I guess I could show you the back of the room because you haven't seen that. But, so yeah, so that's all the cloth. It's actually like floated off the wall a bit. Boing. And it was really fun cutting all that molding. No, it sucked. And then in the back here, I've got the Ronin pillow, obviously, with my emblem, which is my family's crest from Japan. Which, yeah, so this corner here, I got a scatter bass trap, which I built into this corner. It's a big-ass triangle. It's got some rock wool behind it, cloth, and then these different shape and space and thickness pieces of wood. And then these big old pieces are some 4x4s that I sliced up and actually used some food dye to get these colors. And this is kind of a back diffuser that I got going on. And then back here, and you can see it on the other side, there's some little wood slices that I use because they're cedar. And again, a little more scattering, and they smell good. And what else? Oh yeah, and these are the panels. I actually did this with with food dye, which was cool that it turned out that way. It's like a old school Japanese technique of burning the shit out of something, and then you kind of scrape off most of the burn, and then you seal it. But in this case, I dyed it first, and then sealed it. But I just have always loved the grain of the wood, so wanted to make it unique and interesting, and yeah, so I think that I've achieved that. And then that back wall was absolutely fucking insane to do. I mean, there's just an insane level of detail in there that no one will probably ever see or care about, but yeah. Yeah, so one more time, if I can just show you guys this. Hold on. Highly recommend the Expert Trackball. It makes your life a lot easier, makes it a lot faster to move around if you got to use the mouse. That little dude, highly recommend that. Yeah, so that's pretty much, I guess, the introduction of this space to you guys. It's in North County, San Diego, and I work on all genres of music with all types of people. Don't really have any problems with anybody or any style of music. Kind of love it all, to be honest, which is why I decided to do this in the first place. I mean, everyone needs the dude, their friend that knows all the nerdy shit and can do what they want for them. Anyways, I think that's a good place to start and stop for this. I gotta get to wiring a bunch of cables and tidying this place up a bit. And yeah, I will catch you guys next time.